Hi guys, and I'm gonna have to apologise first of all because I wanted to make this video tutorial as one video, but it weighs in over 5 gig once I've edited all the bits together, and I think I'll break YouTube. And not only that, it's nearly an hour's worth of footage, so I think if I break it down into videos it'll make it more palatable, and it won't break my internet trying to upload it as one file. So it's going to be multiple parts, and this is part one. So the start of everything is priming the miniature, and I swear by using Vallejo's polyurethane primer. Now for years I used rattle can primers, but you get so much inconsistency between can and not even necessarily between brands. I mean, you might buy one can of primer from a particular manufacturer, you buy another can from the same manufacturer, and you'll get varying results. But the polyurethane primer that I use from Vallejo, it's normally the grey colour. Spray it out the airbrush, and every single time it's going to give me the perfect results. So that's how I prime it. And what you're seeing here is I'm using Vallejo burnt umber to base coat all those carapace armour plates on the Blight drone. And as you can see, I've left like darker patches of that rust colour, but it's basically just laying down that burnt umber deeper on the model, so it's still just one colour even though you see different tones. Here I'm using MIG's paint chipping solution, and you can see it's really crucial that you really spray it down thick. I know that there's a few people out there that have tried doing this technique and have come up short a little bit, and I think maybe one of the reasons that may have happened for them is because they didn't put down the solution as thick as they should have. Okay, so as soon as the base coat is fully dried, and also I've left the chipping solution dry, it's time to go in for the actual colour proper, if you like, of the armour plating. So I'm using grey green from Vallejo Model Air, and just making sure that it's a nice even coat, covering up all that chipping solution. Again, I mean, the one cool thing about this video footage is for those of you sitting on the fence about whether you should get an airbrush or not, you can see how effortless it is for me to actually lay down this base colour. It's sort of like a 2-for-1 in the respect that you're getting a super smooth finish, and it's effortless as well, much quicker than using a traditional brush. Okay, here I've added white to the grey-green mix. Now, generally it's not a wise idea to add white to a colour to highlight, but for this instance, because I want it to look old and weathered, the chalky texture that you'll get from adding white works. And also you can add white to certain colours like blue, you can add white to, and it won't spoil the colour too much, and you can do the same with blue. But again, you wouldn't really want to add white to red. So it's white's a colour that you have to be careful if you're actually going to use it for highlighting. Okay, so after the grey-green was applied and the white was added for the highlights, as you can see on the top surfaces, it's time to start chipping. And the brush I'm using here is a really cheap, nasty, jobby paintbrush that I've cut the bristles down to make them even more stiffer. And as you can see, there's no real effort, and I'm taking away those 2 layers of paint that are sitting on top of that chipping solution there to reveal that rust colour underneath, and I think it looks fantastic. And to be honest, this is not the best model to actually perform this technique on, as you can see, because there's so many of those little craggy holes that are designed into the model. It's hard to pull the paint from inside those chipped holes, but we'll sort that out later on. But as you can see, on some of the flatter surfaces, it just gets pulled off the model. and it's I've got to say it's really satisfying. I'd also suggest that when you're doing it, to actually start without water when you start chipping, and adding maybe warm water if the paint doesn't start coming away. So small steps rather than large. I mean, when I first attempted it, I was pulling up so much paint, it left an undesirable effect. Okay, what I'm doing here was going back in with burnt umber with a brush to add more chips to the areas, the really indented areas that it was hard for me to pull the paint off with the brush there. Okay, so this is a really cool bit. We're using the MIG pigments now to actually create the rust effects on the blades, and this is, I find, the simplest way to actually create it. What I start with is like using the old rust from MIG. I'll make a paste with matte varnish and water, and you can see there's just normal water, mix it in with that matte varnish. It's from Vallejo. I think it's 60ml. It's very cheap, less than £3 for 60ml of varnish, so it's really cheap and effective to do it. So working with that paste, as you can see, I'm slapping it all over those blades, and again the base colour of those blades that you see was that burnt umber colour from Model Air. It's just to a base colour really for the pigments to work off. So once we've got that dark rust paste built up, we're going to start working with the dry pigments, mixing it into the paste that I've just created there. So that was a colour of pigment that we used for the paste, which is, old rust it's called. And now I'm going to start applying the standard rust dry. Another real crucial thing here is when you're working with pigments, especially in this manner, you want to use the nastiest, most broken brushes that you've got. Definitely don't want to be cracking out your Winsor & Newtons for this sort of job. And what I'm trying to do is build up the lighter colours in the rust towards the edges of the blades. So what it'll do is it'll leave some of the older rust towards the centre of the blades there. And by actually applying the rusts in this manner, it actually adds texture rather than you just brushing them on flat so they actually form like a dust. This actually creates like a texture, which again, it just makes the rust look even more authentic, I think. And it's so simple to do. Okay, so I'm working up to the light rust colour now. So this is a recently formed rust. And I'm sure you'll agree, guys, watching this. I mean, if I was actually doing this traditionally with paints, it would have took me at least 4 or 5 times as long to get even a similar result, but even then it just wouldn't look as authentic as the effects I'm trying to get here. So we've cut it here, and this is exactly what you've just seen from far away, but I wanted to show you really up close in detail exactly what's going on. So again, this is the old rust paste using the matte varnish and water. There's no real ratio. I'd say, I don't know, I guess it's probably 4 drops of matte varnish to 5 or 6 drops of water. It's like a milky consistency. But again, it's not really crucial, the actual consistency. It's as long as you've got some matte varnish in there. It's helped the pigments bind to it. You have to seal the pigments afterwards, because obviously the very top pigments are not sealed, so to the touch you'd start rubbing all rusty oranges all over your hands, which I'm sure I did several times. And what you'll find at the moment with the brush that I'm using, I've left like you'll see the actual pigments and some areas where you'll see some of the loose pigment too loose that needs to be actually smoothed in. I go back in later on with a really soft brush that's quite large, that helps compact down some of those really loose pigments on the top. So that's it for that one, guys. We'll go straight on to the next one.